everyone else share the link as well?
Hang on air is live, yeah. But I'm gonna share the link on the Malaysian Manus group now, and everyone else can just share the link on their personal Facebook.
Okay.
All right, so we are currently recording, guys. So this begins our meeting. Let me just get it. I'll get the link up on Facebook. All right, we're posted. Now we just wait for people to tune in.
I'm actually watching it.
Yeah, there's like a slight delay. We'll give it like 1 more minute, get people to tune in. All right, so we have a handful of viewers now. We've got 8 viewers on board with us for the UNAM-MUN Development 2017 recap session for our town halls. Thank you very much, guys, for joining me. I'm Rehan, and I'll be heading tonight's discussion. So just to introduce the agenda for tonight's town hall, it's very, very clear-cut, very light-hearted. We're just going to be doing a bit of a summary or a recap on our take of what's been happening and what we've done in 2017 for Malaysian MUN so far. So that's the first thing that we're going to be covering. We're going to be introducing and giving a bit of time to everyone who's just signed up to be a part of this task force to speak. So we'll hear from everyone who's present on this call by the end of the night. And the next and final thing that we'll be going into is we'll be talking a bit about our roadmap that we have planned out for 2018. At the end of the call, we'll spare about 15 minutes to open the floor up to some questions from all of you guys who are tuning in tonight. So feel free to chime in on the comment section on YouTube or on Facebook if you have any input or queries, and we'll do our best to get to them. You can also expect that we'll get a summary report that will cover the main details that we've covered in this town hall up on the Malaysian Manus group as soon as possible as well. So again, thank you very much for joining me tonight, guys. Now that the agenda is clear, we'll just be going into some personal introductions. So I'm the head of the Malaysian UNAM-MUN Development Task Force, and along with Kian Long, who unfortunately can't be with us today, we started this initiative as an opportunity for Malaysian Manas who wanted to be able to be given pathways, resources, and opportunities with regards to how they can, give back to the Malaysian MUN community. So we've developed a few departments, namely public relations, information knowledge management, IT and design, so on and so forth. And we've also developed an independent body called the SMK Advisory Panel for the UNAM-MUN development team, which will be focusing on opening up Model United Nations as an activity to government schools here. So we'll be hearing from all of them. I think we'll begin with Kelly going through a bit of a roll call for who's going to be speaking and introducing their departments. So Kelly, you want to take the lead for now by introducing them?
Yeah, okay. Hi guys, I'm Kelly and I'm the head of public relations for UNAM. And basically we're going to be running it through a system where each department goes through like who they are, the members itself, what they've been doing in 2017, and most importantly, their goals for 2018. And don't forget what their department does and what it was meant for. So we'll be going specifically in the order of the first department, which is SMK Advisory Panel, then second, Public Relations, then third, Information Knowledge Management Officers, and fourth, our MUN Conference Advisors, and finally, the IT and Design Department. So that's how it's going to be running out.
Yeah, so we'll have our representative, feel free to speak, our representative from SMK Advisory Panel. You now have the floor.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Hafiz, and I'll be serving as the deputy head of the SMK MUN Advisory Panel alongside my good friend Alif, who unfortunately isn't able to join us tonight. Now, basically what our department does is that our department is tasked to promote MUN, as mentioned by Rehan earlier, to promote MUN as an extracurricular activity to SMKs or public secondary schools. Now, ideally, the goal of the SMK MUN Advisory Panel, or better yet known as SMAP for now, is to legitimize MUN as an extracurricular activity in the eyes of the Ministry of Education, and of course to get as many public secondary schools to participate in Model United Nations via establishing their very own clubs, and henceforth being able to organize their very own MUN conferences. Now that's the gist of what the advisory panel is in charge of. Now, as for what we've accomplished in 2017 so far, is that we have outlined the framework for what we'd like to call the ambassador program. Now, basically what the ambassador program is an initiative that the advisory panel would like to take to get more SMKs involved. And how we are going to do it through the ambassador program is basically to appoint representatives, or as we call them, ambassadors, in every SMK that we approach, to liaise with our panel officers. Now, the ambassadors that we appoint will be in charge of developing cultivating the MUN scene in their respective SMKs, and slowly develop that MUN culture, I guess you can say, in their schools, and hopefully establish their very own clubs, and then, like I mentioned earlier, establish their own conferences. Now that's basically what we've done for 2017. Now, as for our goals for 2018, one of our panel officers, Marquis, will be explaining it to you guys. So Marquis, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Hafiz. So just a short recap regarding, regarding 2018, a short recap from the speech from Hafiz. Regarding the ambassador program, that initiative will be in full force as we expect by early January, early in the year. We hope to have recruitment started as early as possible, because right now in December, it's the annual public Malaysian holidays, public Malaysian schools holidays. So we hope to get that up by January. That's one thing, ambassador program, which we are very excited about. The next thing is a conference collaboration. So we've been talking to a couple of conferences regarding collaboration to boost SMK participation. So through these talks, we hope to be able to get more SMK students into MUN conferences to let them experience those conferences. Regarding this as well is also forming certain what we call umbrella delegations, which is getting different delegates from different schools and putting them into one delegation to work better with the conferences as well as the schools. Also regarding another one of our projects is establishing formal correspondence with the Malaysian government. So mainly we'll be working through channels of the Ministry of Information, the Ministry of Youth, and the Ministry of Education. That's more of our future initiatives. We really hope to be able to complete them by next year to have groundwork set up. And also, this is a sort of an open casting call, if you will, to any individuals or any schools any conferences, any schools, any individuals that like to work with SMAP. You can contact any one of our offices. As Hafiz has mentioned, it'll be me, Alif, Marquis, myself. There's also Leanne, Sulaiman, and Wendin. You can find us all on Facebook. We're all on there. And you can contact us if you need any assistance, any collaboration you'd like to make. And that's about it from SMAP. I'll hand it back over to Rehan.
All right, so thank you very much, guys, for giving us a bit of an insight to your efforts for SMK AP for 2017. So just by referring to the initial proposal, and some of you guys may already know this, but the creation of the SMK advisory panel was actually the first official action of the UNAM-MUN Development Task Force. So it's very nice to be able to see it coming along in such a way. So just to highlight what they've said, how we're going to get about establishing and executing this program is we're going to be implementing it through means such as workshops, encouraging these institutions to establish MUN clubs, exposing them to existing MUN conferences in Malaysia. Eventually, we'd like to open them up to the possibility of having internal mock conferences within their schools. And finally, we want to be able to, and I think this is the long-term goal for SMKAP, we want to be able to develop a sustainable and comprehensible MUN culture and network within the SMK scene in Malaysia, one that could possibly mirror how healthy the existing Malaysian Munners group operates at the moment. So without further ado, we'll move over to public relations. So Pia, why don't you give us a bit of an insight into what you guys have achieved so far?
Okay, so as you guys know, I'm Kelly and I'm part of public relations, and I also have Amir, who's also part of public relations, and it's basically just the two of us. So what public relations does is that we try and spread the news of UNAM to the MUN community, and we just try and reach out to the public as much as we can about what we're doing. And I also type out the meeting minutes of every as well. So for 2017, the things that the PR department has done is organize this town hall, and we've also done a lot of internal work, internal operating systems, and everything else. And I'm going to hand it over to Amir to tell you what we're going to be doing for 2018.
All right, thank you very much, Kelly. So what the PR has planned for 2018 is basically we will expand our communications to the public, to the community even more, because that would be our utmost priority, to be able to gain opinions from the community to improve MUN. And then we will also be having a timeline for public relations to follow throughout 2018, which will be accessible to anyone. And we will also be trying to posting more of the meeting minutes of our meetings to the public for them to be able to know what UNAM will be doing throughout 2018 as well. and that will be about all we're gonna do throughout 2018. So I'll pass back to Rehan.
All right, so thank you very much for that nutshell introspection into what PR has achieved so far, guys. I like to think of public relations as the backbone of any bottoms-up organization, because this initiative will definitely not be able to work if it wasn't for the reciprocal relationship between the Malaysian MUN community at large and the MUN Development Task Force. So Kian Long and I actually started out in PR with the first iteration of the MUN Development Task Force. So I'm personally aware of all the hard work and dedication that it takes to be able to, have a foot in every single department in the task force and be able to effectively communicate it to the rest of the community at large. So yeah, all in all, in 2018, we just want to make sure that through the public relations department, we're able to establish a healthy, very give and take, two-way street kind of relationship with the Malaysian Manas community at large. And the reason being, I'm aware that a lot of people in the Malaysian MUN community have a lot of things to say, and in my personal opinion, most of the time when people express their concerns or their doubts when it comes to how Malaysian MUN operates, they don't do it in the most conducive or effective way. So I'd like to stress, if you guys are still truly committed, and if you guys are still truly interested in making a positive change and impact in how Model United Nations works and operates in Malaysia, then reach out to one of us, reach out to our PR department, see whether you can establish some kind of line of communication. And if you have some proposals or things that you'd like to work on, we'll be more than happy to hear from you in 2018. Right? So moving on, guys. We'll now be hearing from the next department, which is our esteemed information and knowledge management officers. In short, what these guys do are they're basically the idea hubs of this development task force. So a bunch of the internal proposals actually come from these guys. So again, a very, very important driving force in our initiative that we have here. So take it away, guys. Floor is yours.
Hi there. Since Hakim can't make it, I'm Kelvin. I'll be taking over for Hakim for the IKM department. So what Hakim wanted to say was that we are undergoing some proposals, which are the MUN tier system and the MUN workshop, which we are working together with the CA department, my department. And basically, we've already done the parts of the workshop, and we're just waiting for the announcement and the dates. We are in partnership with the Nottingham University of Malaysia, and things are going well. We'll have an update on that soon. And besides that is the MUN tier system. So as we speak, we've already completed the tier system. Of course, there will be some changes later on, but what we have right now is the framework for the tier system to be fully functioning for MUN conferences. And we are trying to reach out to conferences that need help, and we hope that conferences that need help come to us for the tier system, and then we can sort out how UNAM can help them as well. So that's basically what the IKM and CA has been doing together.
All right, so thank you very much, Calvin, for your contribution. I believe we have, yeah, so we've touched on a few sensitive topics here. I'm aware that there was quite a bit of contention when the initial topic of the tier system was brought up. Now, just want to clarify quickly, the tier system is not a ranking system for conferences. Rather, it's some kind of quality assurance that we'd like to instill in the Malaysian community the Malaysian MUN community next year. And as I've said before, we're very bottoms up about all of this. So we're reaching out to conferences who feel they need, some kind of standardized procedure, resources, access to individuals who are experienced with Malaysian MUN when it comes to the running of conferences. So we want to make sure that we cooperate with everyone out there as well as we can. So thank you very much, Calvin, for giving us some insight into that. So I believe we'll be hearing from the next speaker now, which is the... do we have any other representatives from IKM today? Yeah? Or is that it? That's all right. Kelly?
Since Hakim isn't here, yeah, that's it.
That's all right. Okay. So we'll move on to the MUNCA department specifically. Are there any other things that you want to talk about specifically to do with conference advising? Anyone want to take the mantle for that?
Yeah, I think I'll take over from Hiran first. Is that all right, Hiran?
Yeah, perfectly fine. Go ahead, Calvin.
I think there has been a misconception with what CA does. Some people have been blaming us that we're not doing our jobs to ensure that conferences are of quality. But we can only do our jobs if the conferences come to us before they announce it to public. So anything that conferences do without UNAM from the start, we have no power over them, and we can't influence them. We can't tell them what they should do. So I think it's very unfair to blame UNAM-MUN task force, and especially the CA department, since we are, quote unquote, we're just advising, and we can only advise if these conferences come to us. So I want to make that clear to all MUNers, knowing that the CA department isn't controlling all conferences. We are just here for all conferences to come to us. So I hope I have made that clear. That's all I want to clear up about the CA department. Hiran, you can have the floor.
All right, sorry guys, just a few technical issues. Building on what Calvin said, the CA department works on a voluntary basis. So we provide assistance and advice, provided that the conference secretary indeed wants that advice, and overseeing body above them we don't directly get involved or make changes, but what we do is that we recommend changes that should be. In a sense, if you were to put us into perspective, we are more like auditors. Like, we go through the records or whatnot, and we can only recommend changes. We don't make the changes. So that's what our role generally is. For 2017, like what Calvin said previously during the IKM session, we have been indeed working with building the tire system and the UNMC workshop University of Nottingham, Malaysia campus. So basically, the tire system is more like we had an interesting analogy for it. It's not a league or whatnot. It's more like the Michelin guide for food, where in the guide, the Michelin evaluators, what they do is that they go to a restaurant, they sit there, they enjoy whatever that's being served, and after that they recommend what is best there and not. That's what we are trying to bring about with the tires. We're not here to say, oh, one conference is better than other, but what we're trying to do is that we are trying to categorically say how this conference stands out against each other. So yeah, that's what we've been doing for 2017. Back to you, Kelvin, to add on whatever.
Yeah. All right. So thank you very much, Hiran. Just to wrap up the contributions made by MUNCA this year, the reason why I've recruited these individuals to be a part of the conference advising division for the task force is because these are individuals that have plenty of MUN experience and are directly in touch with the Malaysian MUN community. So if anything, these are individuals who are continuously involved and in the know when it comes to what is happening with the conferences in this day and age of MUN. So as Hiran brought up just now, we've actually had quite a few lads from the information knowledge management as well as the CA department present at a lot of conferences throughout the course of 2017, and they've been able to evaluate the shortcomings of certain conferences, the strengths of certain conferences, and and we've been trying to internally evaluate what conferences can actually do to improve from where they are. And obviously, with any initiative that attempts to help certain individuals or a group of individuals, we need to be very critical of everything that's in front of us. So just because we're here evaluating, just because we're here being skeptical and critical about how certain conferences or individuals are being run and participating, it in no way implies that we are, trying to set conferences apart from each other in one way or another. No, it's not about that. It's about us being an initiative that's here for any individual or any conference in Malaysia who is willing to reach out to us or to establish some kind of mutual relationship when it comes to MUN here in Malaysia. So I think that serves as a good segue into the final bit of the introductions, which will be a bit of an excerpt of what IT and design has been up to. So unfortunately, our IT and design officer, Farah, can't be with us tonight, but I hope I'm able to do her some justice. So if you guys have been active on the Malaysian Mothers group, you'll be able to see, all these really nice and dandy, attractive looking infographics. And we have Farah to thank for that. So Farah has been working very closely with Kelly and Amir, especially when it comes to, making all of this black and white information appealing, conducive, and digestible to the MUN community at large. So without her, we wouldn't have been able to, polish all of the content that we're trying to get out to you, because I'm aware that, not everyone can sit down and read a resolution or the entire meeting minutes for a meeting, because that would be quite strenuous and time consuming. So we owe Farah a lot of thanks to what she's been able to do for us so far. Just a bit of an insight into what she has in store for the Malaysian MUN community next year. We are actually drafting a final proposal for the creation of a UNAM-MUN development task force website, where we will make all of the databases that we have stored, all of the proposals that we've put forward, and all of our contact information accessible to the public, to ensure that there's this unified hub where everyone can discuss, everyone can access all of our information and resources that we've put up, and it'll basically be the core of our efforts and the core of our sustainable initiative that we're trying to get on the go here. Because I just want to stress this to everyone who's listening: the MUN Development Task Force is not something that's only going to be existing in this point in time and it's going to die out in the future. The reason why Kian Long have developed this task force in such a way is because we want to ensure that it's, number one, it's sustainable, because obviously other individuals, new generations of MUNers are going to come into Malaysia, and we want to prevent this kind of power vacuum or black hole when it comes to leadership and inspiration for the next batch of individuals. So we want to think and put the MUN development task force forward in such a way that will provide you guys, all of you guys who are listening to this tonight, with an opportunity to contribute in an effective and efficient manner. And efficiency is definitely at the core of what we're trying to do. So thank you very much for introducing yourselves, guys. I think we've got a pretty good insight into what we've achieved so far in 2017. We've got a very active SMK division. Conference advisors have their foot in a lot of conferences this year, and IKM have been churning out proposal after proposal when it comes to developing ideas for how we can make Malaysian MUN a little better. So without further ado, we're just going to go into a few things that we have planned for our roadmap in 2018. So as I've mentioned before, obviously something that you guys can keep in your headlights is the UNAM-MUN Development Task Force website. Once we've finalized the end proposal for this website, we will be addressing this in a separate town hall, so stay tuned for that. Secondly, is something that we actually have had in the works for the better part of a month now. As Calvin mentioned earlier, we're trying to develop this MUN training program in collaboration with the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences and the School of Politics, History and International Relations at the University of Nottingham, Malaysia. So with the help of Yelnor, who's the school representative from UNMC, we're trying to give this MUN opportunity to individuals who are studying their degree in international relations as well as other social science degrees. Basically, we're trying to give them an opportunity to apply the knowledge that they've gained in their degrees and trying to give them an opportunity to, manifest what it is that they're interested in a very, very good platform. So the current status of that is we're trying to get the approval of the university logistics-wise. So we've already developed the majority of the curriculum. To give you guys a bit of an insight, this program will be lasting, it will be ongoing throughout the entirety of the second semester at the University of Nottingham. So that means for about 10 to 12 weeks, once a week, we'll have a workshop at a venue, either somewhere in KLCC or at the university itself, depending on how logistics pan out. And we'll basically have a 2-hour session, I believe, each week, where we go into different elements of what it means to be an MUNR, different skills, diplomatic skills, speaking skills. We'll go into some case studies, perhaps, about what's going on in the world, give them some opportunities to have mock debate sessions and mock discussions when it comes to topics that are relevant today. So that's a bit of an insight from me with regards to the UNMC UNAM-MUN development workshop program that we have in store. So I'd like to open this up to the general floor. Do any of you guys have any comments about the progress for the program that we have in store for next year? Anyone want to chime in about that? How about Calvin? You seem to have been taking a very, very invested role in the progression for the curriculum, as well as Hakim, who unfortunately isn't here today. Well, why don't you give us a bit of insight to the philosophy and the reasoning behind why we're trying to get this proposal off the ground?
Well, thanks, Rehan. I might sound a bit, you might have difficulty understanding me right now because I'm wearing with my retainers. Give me a moment. I'll take them out.
Sure thing.
All right. Sorry about that.
Go ahead.
In 2017, right, most of the IKM and the CA department found out that a lot of Malaysian MUNers are lacking in some departments, and basically our focus is in the wrong direction. So why we came up with this proposal alongside, the workshop and the tier system, the basis of which is just, to go back to basics and rank what is wrong. Because right now, as you know, that a lot of Malaysian MUNers have already left the scene. They've gone on to study, or they've gone on to work, and they've gone on to do other endeavors like, concerts or art or whatever they fancy. And when they left, there's this giant gap and vacuum left behind by them. And new MUNers who come in, they don't really have anyone to look up to anymore. When I say look up, I don't mean idolize. I mean someone, to give an example. And most of them have already become chairs. The delegates who stayed on from, I would say, 2013, 2014, they've become chairs now, and they rarely delegate anymore. And you can't really get that experience for new delegates. So the main philosophy behind having a workshop and a tier system is just to give the new delegates a taste of what the past was like. and maybe, improve it as time goes on. And I think it's a shame that MUN is still not very well known across Malaysia. I mean, some people say it has spread like wildfire, but a lot of people still don't know what MUN is, and a lot of people haven't tried it. So we hope through the workshop we can galvanize some people to get interested, and they'll tell their friends and their family members if possible to join MUN and give it a shot. Because right now, I'll be honest with you, our Malaysian MUN population is dwindling. It's not growing. I don't see it growing in the short term, and it's a major concern because a lot of people, they come and try MUN and then they say this will be my last MUN, even though it was their first. So that's a very, very big problem. So we have to go back to basics and we have to correct what's wrong, and try to make something, give some experience to them for them to stay. Otherwise, then whatever we're doing right now is pointless, because if the Malaysian MUN population is gonna dwindle so small, then I don't see why we should have this discussion at all. So yeah, that's basically what we were thinking in 2017. And going into 2018, our philosophy is the same. We just want to make it better, and by then our workshop will be done, and we'll be hosting some conferences. We'll be helping some conferences, sorry, on how to set up the agenda and their committees and the main focus for delegates. So hopefully we can see the change in 2018. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. Thank you very much, Calvin, for that contribution. I think that serves as another good segue into the main talking point as well for 2018. Alongside this workshop program that we're developing with UNMC, we actually have, there's a lot of talk about the creation of this tier system. And we use that term very loosely at the moment because we want to get the Malaysian MUN community as involved as possible in the creation of this evaluation and critiquing initiative. Because I think Hirun put it in a very, very good way. We're not here to be an authoritative figure and be like, oh no, you guys are hosting a conference wrongly. This is what you should do instead. Rather, we're trying to go back to basics, as Calvin very well put. We need to go back to basics and ask ourselves, what are the fundamental standards that need to actually be introduced into a conference, no matter the philosophy, no matter how they want to manifest themselves, no matter what their end goals. So that is something that I know that a lot of Malaysian MUNers feel very strongly about. So I'm personally reaching out to any of you guys who are watching the stream at the moment or come across the stream in the near future. If you have any opinions about the standards that you'd like to set or the criteria for the evaluation that you would like to set in this critiquing system, we are all ears. We want to hear what you guys have to say. So I think on that note, I'd like to say that I'd really appreciate to see us generate a few more opportunities for us to engage in more dialogue with the community as a whole. So perhaps we could look at integrating, some of you Malaysian MUNers out there who feel strongly about this into the development process for the tier system as a whole. So keep your ears tuned for that, guys. So let's focus a bit more on the our vision for the tier system that we'll be implementing next year. As Calvin touched on lightly earlier, we have a few elements of modern United Nations to consider. First of all, we have to consider how secretariats run the conference. Second of all, we need to consider, and I think that this is a big problem, we need to consider how chairs can be more effective and efficient and regimented in their ways in Malaysia. And third of all, we need to be able to give delegates the opportunity to hone their skills prior to these conferences, so give them more opportunities to attend workshops and talks and so on and so forth. So these are the kinds of things that we are looking to address in 2018. So I think this is a good time for me to open this up to a bit of discussion from the floor. how do you guys see us as the MUN Development Task Force? How do you guys see us being able to reach out to this demand for improved debate quality amongst delegates, improved chairing quality from the dais members, and improved internal running of a conference from the secretariat members? How do you guys think we can begin to approach this in 2018? Anyone? How about yeah, go ahead.
To be honest with you, I think what we should do with dais members is that we should have, proper screenings and, really test the chairs and their knowledge on the subject matter. Because most of the time when we recruit a chair, we ask questions like, well, tell us about yourself and tell us what you like to do. I mean, those are very nice starter questions. You can get to know the chair, but to really know how good a chair is, I don't think you should just base it off the name, but you should start asking the difficult questions. Like, let's say the topic is on Syria, so you have to ask the chair, they have been breaking conventions. Please name a few of them, and then list what the current government is doing, what Bashar al-Assad is doing, and list how its spillover effects on Iraq and the rest of the world, economically, psychologically, and so on. I think, in all, I mean, I've been a chair for some time now, and every time I get interviewed, the questions don't really mark up. The questions are too surface level. We need to start questioning chairs in a deeper sense to get them to really research before getting selected to chair. And then when we select them to chair, they can come up with a research report which is adequate, and they can explain it on the back of their hand. And then delegates can expect that, the chairs will know their stuff, and then they will be motivated to do more research themselves. So I think one of the main areas we should focus on first is how we get chairs, how we improve chairs, how we select chairs. I mean, even as I've chaired for some time. I still have a lot of things to improve on. And every time I go for another conference, I get better and better. I think that's one of the things we need to focus on for chairs. And a lot of conferences let the chairs go very loosely. I think we need to address this as well. There needs to be some sort of framework they must follow. And there must be expectations, A lot of conferences are easygoing. They just expect that the chairs will do their job. But I think having such a free hand isn't what the MUN society should be doing. And on the delegate side, I think it'll be best to help new delegates, with proper explanation of what MUN is and what they should expect. And, that's where the workshop comes in, and that's where the tier system comes in. And, if I may, we should go a step further and, provide online resources for them. I mean, right now we have online resources like the Best Delegate website and MUN Planet, but those are not enough for the Malaysian circuit. We need something to cater to the Malaysian market. So that will be addressed by CA and IKM. It's on the table right now, but it's nothing concrete yet. And yeah, basically that's it. We just have to focus on improving our chairs, and the rest will follow.
Building on what?
Yeah, go on, Hiran.
Apologies, Rehan. Building on what Calvin said, yes, the issue of sub-quality research reports and as being not that knowledgeable or having flaws that they shouldn't naturally have. Flaw is a big word, but they're not up to that standard which delegates expect them to be. I think we can go ahead. What we can indeed do is remove the generic questions. Or it's a bit radical, but avoid asking the same generic questions that are constantly being asked during being in the scene for quite some time. What I've seen is that all the chair interviews do indeed ask the same question. What do you think? how comfortable are you with the rule of procedure, but instead let's move on into more council specific questions, such as if it is a question of economics, such way, uh, ask the question: how does the economic policy of the country, of a certain country, affect their foreign relations, and why is it as such? So the chairs have to come prepared beforehand, and in a way, um, personally, I do find that you should establish a framework in such that not only do the chairs have to answer verbal questions during the interview, but also answering essay questions. Yes, it will be a tad bit more harder to answer or type out an answer during the application process, and you will get backlash of it being too long. But what I do find is that those that are really committed or really interested in that set topic will find a way to really go past it. Those that do not, however, will find like, oh, long, I will not apply. It's a very rudimentary way of weeding out on potential chairs, but it gets the job done. So yes, that's my take on it.
All right. Thank you very much, Aaron, for that input. I see that Hakim has just joined.
I'm very sorry.
No. It's no worry. Difficulties, man.
At the time where like my presence is so needed, suddenly like, oh no, Hangouts aside.
Yeah. So since you just joined us, I think this is a good way to summarize our bit of discussion. So Hakim has been a very, very core key player in the progression of the MUN Development Task Force. He's working on a few proposals and contributing very strongly and consistently towards the tier system, the development of the website, his own initiative, which is posed as the Malaysian MUN Manifesto. So all you Marxists out there have something to look forward to. And so on that note, I'd just like to wrap up this discussion by just hearing a few words from Hakim with regards to how you feel about how MUN has progressed in 2017, and how do you think we can progress from that in 2018?
Okay. First of all, thank you, Rehan, for a very kind introduction. Certainly for the viewers as well. Hi, I just came in. I'm very sorry. Now, I would like to start off by saying, well, I've been here for a very, very long time, if anything, which is August 2013, and I've seen dynamic changes ever since from that point, and it happens yearly everywhere. In my view, on my take on what's happened in 2017, I think it's very varied, which is the interesting case that I tend to observe a lot. So like say, for example, UNAM-MUN in 2017, that was during March, and I see that was radically different from, let's say, TISKL, Tanarata, Teman. And I think some people say, well, the aspects of these conferences are good. These are the aspects that need to be improved on, and they're conference specific. So there's an indication that while we can't really generally say that they're overall are good or overall are quite appalling, I think we have a mixed bag. Well, what I can say though is after having communicated with some key members of future conferences in 2018, I think I certainly am hopeful. For example, I think MUN Munich very recently they've just released the price ranging, such as early bird registration is about 10 ringgit, which is one of the cheapest conference fees I've ever seen.
Skylar, my boy, Skylar.
UNAM-MUN, I think there's very, very promising sector members as well. Klang Valley MUN, which I think is very good as well. I think people should come to it. On that note, I think because of the task force, I think there's a number of people who are, although there's just a few of us, I think where the fact that just our commitment alone is enough to drive or at least spark a beginning in the change of the equality in the MUN scene. And I think since some of us are on the gap years or on the holidays, I think it's really nice that we're able to labor our time and energy in it. I personally would like to not only just work on my projects really, like Manifesto, which seeks to empower all delegates, chairs and secretaries alike, but also would like to press on collaborating with projects from other departments such as the SMK, the conference advisors, the tier system, so on and so forth. So I think on that note, I think I actually really look forward to 2018. And since I think it's the final year in MUN, I'm not going to say, wow, oh, I'm going to resign now. This is my last year, guys. Miss me so much. Personality call. What I can say, though, is I think I strongly look forward to 2018 because now there are just, a couple of people just like you and me who are really looking forward to change the MEN scene. And I couldn't have wished for anything better. That's all.
All right, thank you very much, Hakim. Right on time there. I think that serves as a very good bridge into the final segment of our town hall tonight. We've taken a look at our progress so far in 2017, and we've given you guys a bit of a gander into what we have in store for everyone in 2018. So now it's time to consider a few remarks that have been made by Ethan on the YouTube channel here. So Ethan has been very, very active when it comes to our town halls. With Kianlong and I running them previously, he was also very central to the discussions that happened on them. So thank you very much, Ethan, for contributing to this discussion once again. So this first question is actually posed towards conference advisors. So after I've read it out, perhaps we'd like to hear from Calvin first, and then we'll hear from Hiran afterwards. He says, in my opinion, you've made very good progress, but conference advisors, do you think that the reason why Model United Nations members view CA as ineffective due to what seems to be passive action on UNAM's part in terms of approaching conferences? So, Calvin, what are your thoughts on what Ethan has said?
Well, first of all, I need to thank Ethan for being so active in all these town hall meetings. But, a lot of people blame CA for being passive, and really, we're not reaching out enough. But whenever we try to reach out, some conferences say they have it handled. And conferences that do come to us, they later change their minds and they say, well, we don't need your help. We feel that, we can do it on our own, but thank you for giving us your time. So as CA, I don't think we can force ourselves on them. We can, accept it and say, okay, thank you for reaching out, and thank you for giving us this short period of time to work together. And thank you for trusting us with your conference, But really, the community doesn't really like, no action. They don't see anything concrete, and then they start saying, CA is full of people talking. There's no action, NATO and all that. But really, it's unfair. And Hiran and I and Adi as well, we've been planning behind the scenes to make the tier system, and we've been waiting for conferences to come to us. And we do go to conferences as delegates and as chairs, and then we reach out to members in those conferences and say, hey, you know what, we're part of CA, and if you ever want to host a conference, or if you ever want to be a better delegate or a better chair, we can give you some help. And they say, yeah, sure, we'll come contact you, and then nothing comes of it. Yeah. So, if you want us to go and hard sell ourselves, like, hey, we're CA, we're going to help you now, I don't think that will, sit well with the MUN community. And I don't think it... oh, yeah, go ahead.
Building on what Calvin said, coming from past secretariat experiences myself, being part of TEMAN previously, institutions, if the conference is based in an institution, for example, what happens is that you naturally have the previous secretariat acting as your conference advisor then. Most of the institutional based conferences don't actually approach outside bodies such as us or advise on how to run a conference. There's already the seniors or whatnot that are doing that job. As for our passiveness, like what Calvin said, we could go to conferences and what we could indeed do is that, hey, we are part of the UNAM Youth Development Conference Advisors. We are free and we would like to put ourselves out there. to help you out running a conference and establishing a certain standard. Yes, we get the generic response. Yeah, sure, we will contact you. But the amount of conferences that do really approach us are quite nearly within the single digits. Like they rarely approach us, and even when they approach us, they are if it is a institution based, if it is indeed a institution based conference, they are held back by certain rules and regulations set by the very institution on which they're based. For example, if it was a secondary school, there's only so much that whatever we say can be taken into account because they have a teacher advisor already there. So not much can be achieved there also. So quite basically, in simple terms, the reason why it can be said that we are passive is because the situation is based as such, but it is not because we are just sitting here and not doing anything. We are indeed planning stuff and establishing parameters and helping and contacting people, asking them about conferences, sitting down with them and discussing. But end of the day, if the conferences do not approach us, we are quite literally have our hands tied behind our back. And as for the question of the second question about how exactly the tire system is working, we are right now in the process of establishing a quality assurance parameter. It is in the process. Nothing concrete has indeed come out yet, because establishing a parameter means sitting down, attending conferences, taking reviews, and sitting down and watching and observing. A lot of analyzing and observing happens. So we had to sit down and do such so that we can come up with a parameter and take into consideration the multiple perspectives of this community as well. So as of now, nothing is concrete, but when it is indeed established, and how exactly are we going to review a conference, then we will indeed make it open to public so people can indeed see, oh, so these are the parameters that we are working on. Yeah, Calvin, back to you.
Yeah, Ethan, wait, hold on. I think it's really good point that conferences may change their minds to decide not to, and I've seen them ignoring advice from previous sects. Oh, okay. Kieran just referred to the Michelin guide, and yeah, I get where you're coming from, Ethan. I think there's a contradiction in what Kieran said earlier, based on excellence and, based on quality. We don't really want to rank conferences per se, so I think the Michelin guide was a wrong analogy to use. So it's better to say that tier system is how we can help those conferences and to the degree of how much we should help those conferences. Let's say if they're tier 1 or they're tier 2, the funding structure changes. How much they depend on us, maybe 80%, maybe 20%, or 30 to 40%. And then we'll see that, okay, they opted for tier system number 1. They want choice A. So we'll help them around 80%. So let's say we can help them with promoting their conference, giving them suggestions for ideas, especially if they're from an SMK. Maybe we'll help them with the SMK MUN panel as well. And then we'll get the government on board to approve it because it's difficult for some schools to have it. So depending on their level of need, they will come to us for the tier system. So yes, we do apologize for using the wrong analogy earlier on. But I think Hiran mentioned it in good faith. He wanted to compare. I think he, mentioned it in a different way.
Yeah, so just to wrap all of that up, just to offer my 2 cents about this, I think the justification behind why Hiran used the Michelin star as an example to justify how we want to get about the tier system is because, as you yourself have said, Ethan, the Michelin Guide gives restaurants ratings based on excellence, and when it comes to the precision of what is excellence in the eyes of the MUN Development Task Force, that level of excellence is directly tied to the different standards that we're trying to implement and encourage conferences to implement in their own internal running of the conference. So that means what how relevant are the topics that everyone are going to be discussing in the individual councils. Factors such as what rules are being established in secretariat, what are the standards that they're going to be doing, certain standard operating procedures when it comes to the specific roles in the secretariat, pre-conference preparation for the delegates, how a conference is going to get about doing that. So it's all a matter of standardizing and setting, basic guidelines that conferences aren't necessarily obliged to follow. But obviously, from our standpoint, we're trying to encourage individuals to get on board with our vision for Malaysian-MUN, because after all of this introspection and research into conferences in 2017, we want to be able to set particular standards that would reflect a healthy level of quality assurance in Malaysian-MUN. That's really what it is at the end of the day. If you look at the Michelin guideline as an avenue for quality assurance, I think there's a lot to be said in how we can use that as an analogy to put forward what we're trying to do with this tier system. And that also ties in with Calvin's point about if a conference willingly adopts all of these standards and principles, quite naturally we would be more inclined to support them with more resources and funding as well. So it's all a matter of organization, standardization, and cooperation between conferences and the MUN Development Task Force. But all in all, we can't, hold ourselves accountable for any shortcomings entirely, because we bank on the initiative of the community as well. We need people to be coming forward to us and asking us more questions. So on that note, guys, I think that serves as a good opportunity to bring this discussion to a close, bring this town hall to a close.
Rehan, before we close, Ethan actually has a few more questions, but I think I can answer them. So if you don't mind, I think I should answer them before we go.
How long do you think it'll take you to wrap it up? Because we're a bit over schedule here.
It's okay. It's just a few minutes, like 5 minutes or so. Less than that, to be honest.
All right.
It'll be very quick. Don't worry. Ethan, yes. I think it's the lack of credibility per se, but more of it have to do with time constraints, because most conferences plan 3 months ahead before they have a conference. So usually when we reach out the advice, they'll be way before they have a team out for the conference. And by the time they have a team, they'll be scrambling for resources from their schools or from their universities. And then by the time they remember that they can get UNAM help, it'll be too late, because it'll be like 1 week before the conference. And usually they don't really come to us because they've already got everything settled. And if things go wrong, they want to blame themselves, and they understand that they don't want to blame us. So I think that there has been a relationship of trust there. And simply doesn't have standing for yet to treat UNAM. Yes, exactly. Because we will admit that we did have faults with some of the systems we have in the past, and a lot of people are questioning why it stopped and why it doesn't want to continue. But I think the main point is that we're here today, and 2018 will be different, because now we have a fully functioning team. When we launched some of the events from UNAM Youth didn't really have a strong team like the MUN task force to handle the issues. So we've been cleaning internal problems, and now we're ready to tackle the problems and see how it goes. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. So yeah, thank you very much, Calvin, for wrapping that up. So just to bring this call to a conclusion, I think we've had a very productive year in 2017, and I'd like to clarify why it is that we seem quite under the radar with things towards the latter half of this year. And it's largely because, as I've said before, we're trying to develop an initiative that's sustainable. And the past 6 months has been focusing directly on internal development for the task force, as well as making sure that we have a sustainable framework to operate on so that it continues sustainably throughout the years. So we've come to this point where I can safely say personally, and I think that everyone in this call can agree, with me when I say this. We've come to this point where we are operating at a certain level where we can progress beyond this level of internal operation. And as soon as the new year comes around, we're going to be a lot more proactive in communicating with the community, getting the community directly involved with our initiatives, and making sure that our actions are more visible in the Malaysian MUN community's radar and in their eyes. So that's the general philosophy of what I had in mind for the year that I'm implementing the first reiteration of the MUN Development Task Force. The first 6 months, in short, was for internal development, and then the next 6 months was for external growth. And hopefully after this year, it'll be able to operate smoothly, efficiently, and sustainably. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Calvin, Hakim, Hiran, Kelly, Marquis, Sulaiman. Thank you, Amir, for sitting with us as well. And thank you for everyone else who has stayed with us till the end of this town hall. Your input is extremely important to us, and we hope to hear more from everyone come the new year. So a Merry Christmas to everyone celebrating, and a Happy New Year. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Kwanzaa.
Good night,
Mazel
everyone.
tov.
Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Right.
Have a good night, everyone.